Welcome back to the Navy Sports Magazine. Time to shed the light on track and field. And as you can see, we've got yet another person with the sweater on. That tells you what this week is all about. It's Army-Navy week coming up at West Point for the men's track and field team with Cedric Williams. What is this week like for you and your teammates to make sure that by the time Saturday comes around, you're at peak mentally and physically, ready to go up against your arch rivals?
This week is just a bunch of preparation, making sure everyone is healthy. You don't want to overtrain during this week because obviously the stakes are high, so people tend to try to go a little bit harder, but the coaches are doing a very good job of making sure that we stay on pace for our scheduled trainings that we have. And it's a very intense week, but I think we're doing a good job so far of taking it back a little bit as far as not overtraining in the weight room, making sure our bodies are very healthy for this weekend because it's going to be a very high output. We're going to do very well.
No doubt about that. Now let me ask you this. Your sport, especially as a triple jumper, is so technique-oriented. What do you do during the course of a week? How fine is that training to make sure that technique is, it can be something as little as a foot fault or something like that, and it can wreck your whole day. How do you make sure that you are really right at that fine level you have to be at to be a winner coming up on Saturday?
The biggest thing with winning in the jumps is consistency, I believe. And during our practices, especially this week, we just work on fine-tuning everything from our approaches to the amount of steps we take in the approach to the way we take off on the board. And it's really just nitpicking those areas and making sure we're consistent. I like to think back when I was Little League, our coach always told us to always shoot our free throws the exact same, do the exact same process. And this week is focusing on the process, because if you have the process right of when you take off and you go to jump, then everything else is gonna follow in that same rhythm. So I'll say this week is focusing more on the process and making sure you have good consistency.
Every runway is different. You train at one of the greatest indoor facilities in all of college athletics. Going on the road, though, how different of an adjustment is it when you go somewhere else to get used to that runway to make sure you can get that same rhythm that you enjoy at the Wesley Brown Fieldhouse?
It'll definitely be a challenge. Anytime we're on the road, it's a challenge, but especially because it's Army, there's going to be a lot of other distractions that they try to throw at us. But the way you train here and why we harp so much on the consistency is so that when we go to other environments like Army West Point, that we'll be ready for whatever they try to throw at us, because no matter what, we control our run, we control our jump. So I think Coach Carter is doing a really good job of instilling that consistency in us and making sure that we hit the right marks on the runway and that we have the right placement when we go up to the board, to where it doesn't matter where we are. We can be here, we can be at Army, we can be anywhere, and we'll do it.
Is there a rhythm and a feel to all of that?
There is. There's in the triple jump especially, there's a big rhythm. If you watch world-class triple jumpers, you'll always see like a rhythm. It's like,
yeah,
and then into the pit. So I think that is a big part of what I think of personally when I'm jumping, to try to make sure that I get that rhythm, because the slower the claps, the further the jump. And so if I have that perfect rhythm, then in theory my jump should be a really good jump. And in the past, as I was taught by Khalif, he was also a triple jumper here. He never lost the Army, and that's also my goal, being the guy for the triple jumps now, is to never lose to them. And so that rhythm is a really good thing for me. I think about it often. So yeah.
As the guy that has set the standard, obviously, as the Patriot League indoor champion, how does a guy continue to rise to that level? Because you've set the standard, Mark, within the league. How do you continue to hold yourself to that standard and try to get better during the course of the season?
I just look at my previous examples, Khalif Wolf, and our new coach that Coach Cook brought in, Bobby Carter. He was a really good jumper, and he really pushes us. He likes to think of us as world-class athletes. He treats us like professional athletes, and with that comes not competing with or looking at necessarily your immediate competition as being who you're chasing, but yourself who you're chasing. You know what you can do in practice. He always sets out cones, and he's like, this is where you should be. And it's like a distance into the sand. He's like, this is where you should be. And we always compete with ourselves to get to that mark. And that makes it easier for us to keep striving and not get complacent when we hit a PR or we break a record. It's like, well, we know where we can go in the future. And so that's like the motivation. He gives us good motivation, like visualizing it, and so we can have that in our minds always to kind of strive for more. So
You've grown up in some communities that have been, very good in terms of climate to consistently run really throughout most of your life. When did you know, though, that track and field could be the kind of vehicle to get you an education at a place like the Naval Academy?
I started to notice that sophomore year, end of my sophomore year. I was running at a school in Lompoc, California. It's called Lompoc High School. And the coach there recruited me to triple jump. I was on the football team. He recruited me to triple jump. And I started jumping, and I was decent. I wasn't the best, but I was decent at it. And I talked to DeBrandon, my cousin who went here, and he got me in contact with Coach Cooksey. And so that's when I first realized it, but I didn't fully realize it until I went to my high school in Atlanta, Georgia, which was McEachin High School. And that's when I started hitting good marks, better marks, and I was in contact with Coach Cooksey and Coach Campbell a lot more. And they really painted a picture where they made it seem possible for me to really continue my track career at the Naval Academy, and that's when I started taking it really seriously. And so I'll say about around the end of sophomore year, early junior year is when I noticed, or when I realized that I could continue my career here.
Is there a 15-footer in there somewhere?
Oh, there is, for sure. It's gonna happen.
I was going to say, knocking on the door at 14.95, but you mentioned the competition within yourself. Is 15 feet something that will just happen, or is that something you look at as maybe the next goal? That's what I'm striving for. Is it just a case of doing what you're supposed to do and let the measurement take care of itself?
I think it's a case of doing what I'm supposed to do and let the measurement take care of itself. I feel like once I try too hard to hit a specific mark, then some of my technique or some of that consistency may fall apart because I'm trying to strain too much in some areas and trying to change little things. But I feel like if I just trust the coaching and trust the process that they set up for us, that everything should take care of itself, and I'll be well over that no time soon. Just got to keep working and trusting the process. So,
all right. Appreciate the time. Best of luck to you and your teammates this weekend.
Appreciate you.
All right. Cedric Williams joining us here on the Navy Sports Magazine.